not from the lighting perspective, so I'll give you a little bit history of lighting in Toshiba. So Toshiba have been producing lighting products for last 130 years. They gave their first light bulbs, commercial light bulbs, to the Japanese market, and they also created their first basically fluorescent light bulb for Japanese market, and they were the first mainstream vendor of lighting bulbs basically who designed LED. When the LED bulbs were designed, they discontinued their most energy inefficient incandescent bulbs, and they announced it back in 2008. Actually they stopped producing them by 230. So we are very committed to the eco-friendly nature of LED light bulbs. While we have provided the lighting, we basically also have a good history with visible light communication. And so if you look into it, Japanese tech industry was ahead of visible light communication because in the modern visible light communication, they started making collaboration with each other, and they built a consortium which was called Visible Light Communication Consortium, and they established it back in 2003. And nationally, they started working on multiple different visible light communication standards. And a couple of those standards were standardized by Japan Electronic Information Technology Industries Association. They are very long documents, and they are in Japanese, so people don't basically go through these, and they are not nationally acknowledged. But with this presentation, what I like to show you that the Japanese tech industry was very spearheaded these applications in the first decade of 2000 of this millennium, and then they also contributed into IEEE 2.15.7 standard, which was a physical and MAC standards for visible light communication. So, little bit past about Toshiba's real applications, which were as early as 2006. So their first foray into visible light communication was actually looking into intelligent transport systems. Today we have our mobile phones, and we use Google Maps to indicate whether there are traffic jams, whether there are accidents. But they were at that time looking into the visible light communications. And what was the main applications around that time was actually these displays, these signs that you see on motorways. They were basically, these LED lights were actually communicating data. And what kind of data they were communicating was actually if there is an accident here, then these displays can tell all the cars actually that there is an accident, so there will be a traffic jams as well. So these kind of intelligent transport systems were the basic use case back in 2006, which was like 13, 14 years ago. And they basically made advanced prototypes of these kind, where basically these displays were actually using different colors to transmit different information, and that's called color multiplex VLC-enabled traffic displays. And that was as early as 2006. Then, in the very next year, they also started looking into indoor localization. So they made these spotlights with electronics designed, and what they were basically doing it, if there is a spotlight here, I can know that I'm in this corner of this room actually, and I can navigate open public spaces very easily using these kind of technologies. And on a receiver side, you can use a diode basically to get the location associated with spotlight, and it will allow you to give the navigation commands as you navigate through a big public place like supermarket. So that was back in 2007, 13 years ago. And one more very interesting project of practical nature. Japanese Coast Guard was in Yokohama port, was actually very interested in safe marine navigation of the ships in the night. So they started the project, which was a collaboration between Toshiba and Casio Computers. What they were trying to do, that these lighthouses were actually have some kind of LEDs which were transmitting very long distance outdoor communication, small low data rate communication, what is equivalent to LoRa like today, but going through visible light communication. So this lighthouse was actually transmitting the GPS signal that I am actually GPS coordinates, that I am, let's say, 10 kilometers away from you, stay away, the tides are bad, so don't hit the shore kind of thing. And that was 2008, 12 years ago. And they had a very successful project, and they deployed 4 of these this equipment in 4 different places in Yokohama port. The interesting thing I want to tell you about this project was the scientist who was involved in this project used CMOS-based cameras on the receiver side, and of course modulated LED light bulbs on the lighthouse. So this is the lighthouse, and they were basically could transmit in the evening time, around evening time, a 1 kilometer link, which was 1.2 kbps kind of link at 1 kilometer. If you know LoRa, then this boils down to SF of 9 and 10 actually. And at 2 kilometer, you can still sustain 1 kbps kind of a link, which was very nice. If you visually see that link from a distance of 1 kilometer, you only see basically these tiny dots. So this basically became the world's record for the longest VLC link using an image sensor back in 2008, 12 years ago. So that was past of Toshiba, invisible light communication. Today, we have a presence and footprint in multiple different areas. One is from French point of view, even Musée du Louvre in Paris has basically Toshiba lighting installed everywhere in the museum, and also interior and exterior of Toshiba. And we also have visible light communications on TV and film studios. Not visible light communication, just the lighting part. So we have equipment which basically provide production grade equipment, basically, which can be installed in TV and studios, as well as stages. So we are big in not lighting in a way. Apart from that, your airports have a lot of lights. We have presence there. We make interior and exterior lights of the automotive industry, and we are big in retail, because in retail, before we can sell you stuff, basically we need these should look pretty, so we basically design lights for that. So today, the Toshiba as it stands has a footprint in multiple different industries, so we are well positioned to lead the work in visible light communication, but for the right business use cases. That's very important. As my fellow presenter before also highlighted, some of these solutions that we are looking today and we are excited today were solved like 12 years ago, 13 years ago. So technology was there. The business push have to be there. For the right kind of ecosystem have to be there. Someone have to be there to basically put this technology onto the devices, which didn't happen. This whole of this thing. So in the past, Toshiba pioneered a number of inventions in lighting. They have a history of 130 years, and they have also worked with others to drive the VLC standardization. And proof of concepts were as early as 13 years ago, 14 years ago from now onward, from now. Technology was there. In the present, we still have a large footprint in a number of industries, including automotive, art lighting, and retail. In future, therefore, we can play a very pivotal role in multiple industries. But to be honest, it have to come into the devices before we can before it come commercially viable. So if I have an Hawaii phone and it does support this particular technology, the vendors have to agree that everybody have to basically provide these are kind of technology on the mobile devices. So this is my feel about the visible light communication in general. I'm open to the questions if you have any.
Let's thank Usman for the presentation.